Yes, I'm gonna do that.
Sure.
The issues?
There's 3 items on Jack's agenda for the meeting. A couple others we're going to talk about as well, but the first one is the pre-action system. There's been a lot of debate about this. The building was designed, engineered with a pre-action system for the mech space and all the IT space. Pre-action system is basically your fail-safe protection for to make sure that the wet system doesn't ruin everything and goes off by mistake, because that does happen. If rooms get cold and you can freeze. We had 2 incidents, one at the school and one at the COA this winter. This is a better insulated building, but if the sprinkler goes off by mistake, it will ruin all the equipment. So there was a pre-action design bid into the project.
Is that part of the original bid?
Part of the original bid, there was
Okay.
pre-action.
And part of the plans that Cole reviewed.
Part of the plan that Cole reviewed accepted.
In July.
So what happened, as soon as it went out to bid, they discovered that the design that RDK came up with wouldn't work with the actual building. So shortly after the building was bid out and everything, they came up with an alternate work plan to redesign it. There is a $13,000 13.8 change order to put low point drains on this pre-action system, because I learned a little bit more yesterday, and basically they can't pitch it back, so they have to put low point drains. They have to go down through the floor to the first floor and then shoot out the drains out the front of the building, the little scuppers coming out.
Is this because of the 1/8 inch pitch?
Part of the 1/8 inch pitch, part of that they just appeared that they just put a design out and didn't work, and so we had to pay for it twice to have it work properly. And its bottom line is, it was kind of admitted yesterday that RDK didn't design it properly, and now this is what we have to deal with. So now there's a new issue that they have come up with, and they feel that there's an alternate solution, which was to only have pre-action in the IT rooms, but not the dispatch room, and it shouldn't cost, they feel that it shouldn't cost the town any extra money to accommodate our request for pre-action, but it still removes the pre-action from the dispatch floor. I've talked to several people about this. We had an impromptu site meeting last week with RDK, had an electrical engineer and plumbing engineer came out to the site, and there was discussion about this with fire chief, myself, the building contractor, and they said that RDK gasped when they learned that they wanted to take out the pre-action, because it's just, you don't do that. Buildings with expensive equipment, you have pre-action in there. We need pre-action. They want to cut it out because we've asked the architect to stop having change orders, and this is a change order, so that's the whole start of this, remove it. We do not want to take out this. We have everything going to this space with the utmost building design where everything's protected. So we have our electrical going up there, so if there's, everything's well designed. Now the thing that keeps it from, if the sprinklers go off, it's still not saying the sprinklers can't go off, but there's several fail-safes in the process to prevent it from going off. We cut this out, we're going to cripple the mech, and it'll take a long time to fix it, and then we shouldn't be cutting it out. We shouldn't be paying a change order either, but they did a bad design. So I propose that we continue with the change order, unfortunately, to keep the pre-action in the system. That way we do have a fail-safe mech, the communication center in its entirety. I reached out to the company that I deal with for the town for all the suppression. They said it'd be crazy to pull it out. RDK didn't feel it was a good idea to pull it out. Nobody feels it's a good idea to pull it out. The reason it's trying to be pulled out is because of money, but it shouldn't be pulled out.
And I know Chuck weighed in. Chuck obviously doesn't want it to be pulled out, and then Gary Primo, the executive director at the MEC, obviously doesn't want it to be pulled out either. I was going to say some of the change orders we can probably direct towards the MEC. I mean, not that I want to do that either, but
And it's for their build out of their space
right.
and their IT room, but it also benefits our IT room.
Right. I mean, it's a shared cost. I mean,
Sure.
If there's any good
yeah.
news, it's not totally our cost.
No. But this is a life safety area.
Right.
Why we're gonna have everything else perfect on it, built to the highest standard, and then have the one thing that can really destroy it fast?
Now, how does that pre-action, what is that, how does that work?
Basically, it's a dry system, and you
Okay.
have, there's different parameters. You can set it up however you want, but you can set it as having one smoke, tell the system to go. You can have 2 smokes, you can program it each way, but you have 2 fire systems, one to protect the wet system. So it's dry, until it has enough parameters. Then it doesn't let false activation go off, basically. And it gives you a time period to stop, shut the valves down before it goes wet. So the problem is when a sprinkler goes wet, they have this nasty black water that just ruins
Oh, I
absolutely
know,
everything.
I know.
So it's
It
just
still won't go off though unless
the head goes.
the head, goes above 180 degrees
Right.
and melts it out, so.
Right.
But the water comes up into the system, based on an alarm.
Oh, all right.
If they find that the alarm's going off and so they know the water's going up there,
Yeah,
but there is no fire, they have time to actually shut the valve off, so, yeah. I mean, I was involved in these things, and, with Brian, and, I mean, he brought up the point that there's not very often that sprinkler heads go off, incorrectly, but they could.
they could.
And I had asked him, what about the, doing a chemical system in those areas? And he said they already had those discussions. They felt life safety was an issue because it takes all the oxygen out of those rooms, and now somebody could get hurt from that. But, I mean, as a building inspector, I have to look at it, does it meet the code? And
Right.
so, based on that, I tried to have a conversation with Cole. He wasn't available, so I said, you can do it, but, I want a letter from your engineer stating that he's okay with it, and to make sure that, all the piping and everything, nothing's changing as far as the static pressure and all that. So I never got that. He sent an email saying, go ahead, start the work. I responded back saying, look, I haven't received anything, so don't start anything, basically. But, I think this is a better way of doing it, is just stay with the pre-action
Yeah.
and
all,
force them.
all the other mechs around the area have pre-action. Most all IT rooms with expensive equipment,
Yeah.
all that pre-action. It's one of those things. If something goes wrong and we cut it out, there's liability, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to.
Yeah.
The way we're talking with the director of the MEC was that, and I didn't know exactly how much money was involved, but he said there's like over $1.5 million worth of equipment between computer equipment and then the console equipment.
Yeah.
And if any of that gets wet just because one of these
Right.
went off by accident or it was a malfunction of some sort,
So, and again, the majority of the system is already, I mean, the equipment's already factored into this. It's just the piping problem, because they did a faulty design, is
What
the issue.
What was faulty in the design?
Because they're going to trap the water, which is going to rot out the bottom of the pipes. There's no way to drain it out.
Oh, wow.
So now their feeling is that what they want to do is basically, they can't go through the main carrying steel for the roof. They can't go through there to get their pitch. So they have to go underneath each beam, and that's where the problem is. So if they put it underneath the beam, it's going to be less than 7 feet ceiling in there. So now they want to just go straight down to the floor on the low points, and then have outside drains with 3 valves that you have to drain, like where the patrolman's area is. There'll be a valve in the ceiling, so if it does go wet, you open up a drain there and let it out. So when they do annual testing, you drain it there, but they don't want to have it sitting in the pipe.
Yeah, so as Matt explained it to me yesterday, so you do the annual testing, you
Right.
you liquefy the system,
Yep.
and then
And you have to,
drain
yeah,
it,
you
but
have
there's
to
water
drain
sitting
it,
in
yeah.
there, that's what rust.
Yeah, that
Oh.
makes sense.
And at the olive day dry system, which is not pre-action, but it's the same theory, that it wasn't pitched properly, and there was a lot of work that's been done to change piping over there because it wasn't pitched. So we definitely do need to have it drained properly, because otherwise
Absolutely. You got broken pipes.
but it's one of those, I hate spending more money, especially, and it's not something that we foresaw having an issue with. It was a bad design, but I don't want to cut it out because it's just going to make potential for future issues.
How much is change order? you said?
Change orders, I think $13,800. But it's also holding up the entire layout of the HVAC and everything else because they need an answer.
Obviously, I don't want to spend more money, but I think we have to.
So, too.
Does anybody disagree?
No, I sat in the meeting yesterday with Matt and Jack and so on. We have no choice.
I'm just frustrated with the fact that we have to even make this decision.
That's
know.
that's what I'm frustrated with.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm tired of this incompetence.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it wasn't a building that wasn't already there, that they didn't have all these measurements to
Right.
begin with, so,
If they measured,
Right.
we know from the garage doors they didn't.
Right.
yeah.
Oh, it's 2 feet among friends, Chuck.
Well, I have been told that they did measure the length and the width of the building,
It's good to know.
the architect.
I move
So-
to require, I'm going to call it a dry system, for lack of another term, to be the fire suppression system in this building.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I will alert the general contractors once this meeting concluded, because they're going to have a coordination meeting again.
Good.
So I'll let them know right away. The second big issue, as everybody's aware of, is the OPM. We had the last board meeting, we voted for the OPM to reduce their hours from, we've been getting billed for anywhere from 40 hours a week to about 30 hours a week. Now that the next portion's going, they're putting some of their time on. We asked them to reduce their hours to 10 hours per week for the town and 2 hours a week for the project director. They have not followed that directive at all. There's been a person there. We haven't received any invoices, but there's been a person there 5 days a week, at least 8 hours a day. Presently, we are out of contract because we haven't signed an amendment, because we have gone over the allotted original budget, and we're on our third contract that they want us to sign. We've had issues since last summer with this firm. They've replaced an OPM, or the project clerk, who had some issues but was doing a great job besides some other issues going on. They replaced him with somebody that they never vetted through the town, and they have just nailed the town financially. And the level of service that we're receiving for the amount of money that we're being invoiced for isn't worthwhile. We're not, everybody knows that it's just, we're not getting the documentation, we're not getting the coordination, we're not getting any communication. It's created issues between the contractor, the town, and the architect, because they're not doing their job as the middleman, the buffer. Right now, we have somebody that sits in a trailer a lot, and it's just not fulfilling what we need them to fulfill.
Matt, would you
Yeah.
accept a motion to start a good debate?
Absolutely.
I move to terminate our relationship with the project manager, effective immediately.
Second, third.
Now we can debate.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I have no debate with that. I agree with it. We're not receiving what we're being invoiced for. We presently have they're seeking presently a third contract, and they've gone way over. We signed a second amendment, and it was supposed to last us through this summer, and they went after us retroactively for $30,000 a month. So the minute the second amendment was signed, it was already depleted. As of 3:30, they already wanted us to pay them $26,030, which we haven't done. And as of 3:30, they have been billing us. So I don't know what they're going to go after us for future.
There was a motion that, to clear, they were in the meeting.
Yes.
They were physically here when we limited them to 10 hours. That's all we're contractually obligated to pay them for, period. They want to hang around for 5 days, 6 days, 24 hours a day, I could care less.
So I have the committee's, I guess I'm looking for a motion to have the committee's approval to, from the day that we told them to go down to 10 hours, effective the following Monday, from that point on, pay them for 10 hours for the clerk and 2 hours a week for the project director, and pay them for the time before that, but then that is
I don't even know
it.
why we would debate it.
Just want to make sure that that's on board, because I will,
I mean, that was a unanimous vote. It is, you know.
so,
Do we have to send them a letter in writing to say?
They were
state that?
physically in the meeting. They were here.
And they're supposed to take
They were,
notes.
but I would still do that. I would still do that, though.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll have
I
it.
think, I was gonna say, Matt and I will we'll talk to Dave, we'll send them
Whatever the appropriate legal way is to do it.
Formal
Do it.
separation notice, and
But this has gone on long enough.
but just for the financial part of it, pay them what they want until the day we told them to go down 10 hours, and pay them 10 hours for it, because I'm sure they're going to, I just want to have the building, okay.
Yeah.
I think.
We gotta make sure that those are in the meeting minutes
Yes.
from that meeting, so that it's clear, because they could just not put it in the meeting minutes for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's also on video, so,
Yeah, it was clear.
Oh, I know it was clear, but
okay.
So, I mean, we haven't taken a formal vote, but
No.
assuming that it's voted, where do we go from here? Do we?
All right,
I was going to say, I'll make a second motion after we
Well,
do
after,
the, what, we talked about this at length yesterday. Mr. Bullock is certified to take on that role, and he's agreed that he's willing. Pardon?
Qualified.
Qualified. Thank you, sir. And he's agreed to do that with the understanding that Matt will continue to do the extensive amount of work that he has done. I mean, he's been a godsend to us.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. That works for me.
that's what I would propose. If you would like, I can make it part of the original motion. You could take it as a friendly amendment, that we terminate
Yes,
the
sir.
relationship
Yeah.
with the other project manager, and then we appoint Mr. Bullock in that capacity.
Yes.
Would that be acceptable to the chair?
Yes, it would. Amendment accepted.
Second that.
Second is amendment, yeah.
All right, so, any further discussion? The original motion and the amendment. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
Two more things at that site. Just FYI for you guys, there has been a bond claim put in from a subcontractor of BC Construction at the site. MPS steelworkers, they were some of the installers of the steel. They've gone after BC from lack of payment. BC's gone after them for lack of performance. It's back and forth. They have lawyers involved. They're handling it. They're not going to go after the...
Can you start that again? This is the first I've heard of this.
There's a, I received this yesterday. There is a subcontractor for BC Construction who has put in a claim against, wanted to know the bond information on the job. I forwarded it to DeLuca, and I spoke to BC's lawyer. There's a dispute of payment. This contractor's going after BC Construction for about $50,000, and BC Construction in turn is going after them for about $80,000 for damages. They're going after each other. They're not going after the town. Basically,
What went wrong to cause this?
MPS didn't show up to do their work, so Cresta basically, they kept pulling out. They were saying, oh, we're missing parts. They installed parts wrong. They were not showing up to the job sites. Cresta ended up hiring another firm to finish the job because they had a lot of issues going on. They installed purlins and window openings on the second floor backwards, and they did a lot of back and forth. So they're fighting each other. We're staying out of it. Just want to let you guys know that there is a back and forth going on right now. If anything happens, I'll let you guys know, but it's being dealt with by their attorneys. But just another problem. And I can forward you guys, I scanned this all in. I was going to forward it to you after I told you about it, so you know. It has all the, has Cresta's side of the argument, and it has the attorney's letters in there. So that's happening. And then also at the police station, we're doing the site work, as you guys are all very aware of, and we're having a problem with the front wall because some of the drainage structure is not where we thought it was. And I hired Rick Boudreau from United Consultants I worked with GGG, which is a civil engineer for the site. They gave him their CAD drawings, and Rick was able to transfer the measurements onto the CAD drawings because we need to have points of reference and kind of have some engineering done for the site work to happen. It was noticed on the drawings that the retaining wall is on an easement for the drainage of the park. The original footings were a foot thick, but they were still on the easement. So I want to make sure that's okay, because now, but basically the original design of the block wall was a foot thick block wall, but the face of them was still on this easement. I just want to make sure everybody's on board that we're going to stay on this easement for this.
Who owns the easement?
I think the industrial park.
Did you see a problem with that, Bob?
As long as we don't get into the structures, I don't think it's gonna be an issue. One of the structures is in the way right now, which, I don't know.
That's our structure, though, I believe. Or is that for the?
No, I think that's
That's
part
our-
of it,
All
yeah.
right.
So, I don't know if that's, I mean, Rick was gonna go out there and stake it out, so once he stakes it out, we may be able to cut the block back around that structure to, that may not be easy, but, that may be the only way to get around it.
We're also planning on spinning the head, which will, we think we have a solution, but I just want to let you know that this is going to be on an easement. There's a 6-foot easement, which will also, the site lighting in the parking lot, they're all going to be part of this easement. So It was in the design. I just wanted to clarify to everybody that this is on an easement, which I just discovered yesterday afternoon.
I'm sure we've got obviously a lot of road work to do up there too, because the subdivision went into bankruptcy, so we've got the bond. Pretty confident we can work it out we've got a good relationship with the owners up there, so we should be able to work it out.
All right.
All right. The last thing is at the site meeting yesterday, it was discovered, the last thing for the police station, it was discovered, or it was stated that the town has not responded to the DEP for their approval of the 23 gallons per day. The state reviewed it and they were fine, provided the town was fine, so I went to the Betsy Fitzgerald yesterday. They sent the letter last Tuesday as soon as they received notification from DEP, and then forwarded it to the architect and the design engineer. And we got confirmation this morning, but now that we have it back and provided the DEP goes along with it, which there doesn't seem to be any issue, we now have to buy the sewage rights as soon as humanly possible, because we're not allowed to put the septic system in, which is going to hold up other stuff.
Right.
So, but it does appear that it's moving, but there was some finger pointing yesterday that we're holding up, so we were able to prove that we didn't, and Betsy just sent me, as this meeting started, that the state has accepted the letter, accepted that they have delivery of the letter. So,
So that's good news.
good news, yes, but, so those are
So
the,
the septic issue is off our table at this point in time.
Not
well,
completely.
yeah.
Almost.
Pretty much.
it hasn't been
pretty much.
finalized, but the other
We're gonna
issues,
buy it.
we have.
Right, well, we have to buy it, but there was an agreement in place to do that, so.
But the health inspector will not let me put a single structure in the ground for that until we own the rights.
Well, that makes sense.
So we have to, hopefully, because there was issues with the Board of Trustees with that park, had been,
Yeah, the Board of Trustees, there's just some confusion on the trustees' parts about who has the authority. So Dave was trying to work that out with Walpole Bank, because they were on the board back when the bankruptcy happened, so we'll just follow back with Dave, and we just gotta have them get their act together, so.
so as soon as that's straightened out, we'll get the septic going, but it appears that it won't be an issue at this point. So that's it for the reason that we wanted to have the meeting, but there's also, for this station, there's also another status or question that the board needs to look at is the design of the fire station at 117.
I think the discussion Matt and I had on Monday, and Jim was part of that, after we had, Mike Crust had called us to talk about some frustrations with the project, leave it at that. Frustrations with the architect. So our concern, based on the frustrations with the architect, as well as the uncertainty about the cost overruns, is we'd like to, I'd like to anyway, just tell Humes to put the fire station design on hold until we get a better feel for what the cost overruns are on the police project.
I've been asking for an estimate of this cost now for 2 months. Pretty close. And it was originally going to be in April. Now it's, I think, the end of May was the last statement we got, or first week in June, or something like that. And we've had so many, what I would call horrendous errors in the work that's, in the design work that's been done on this building. I don't really want this guy doing anything right now until we get our arms around this. And we need to have a very direct, maybe Jack and Matt, or Bob, as the project manager, need to have a very direct conversation with this guy. Just, I don't know what to say. I mean, we've debated this so many times.
But I think this project is what it is at this point, because everything that has to be corrected has to be, involves change orders, and we just have to try to stay somewhat on as, have an amiable working relationship,
Yep.
but continue to just say, all right, hold off on anything else. We're not spending any more money on any other project until this one's 100%.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that just, I don't want these guys to think that's my implication, that we're, abandoning him for that, but that's not the point of this.
No.
It's just that, he's going forward with design work And we don't even know where we are in terms of the overall financials of this project. I mean, if you guys know it better than I am, we have guesstimates, you and I have shared our guesstimates, and they're not the same number. I'm hoping I'm right, and you're wrong.
Hoping you're right as well.
I know you do. But I just don't see, I mean, I assume we're going to have something that's reasonably close to where we're going to be in the next 30 days.
I think that's why they're holding off, because of these change orders that keep on coming up, that just keep on adding to it, that they haven't wrapped their arms around it completely, because they're not past all the rough-in stage of everything. Until they get past that, you know, these change orders are gonna keep, you know, coming in, and they don't wanna give a number and then have it be changed again.
No, but they
That's what I'm
do
thinking
have,
anyways.
I mean, all of these smaller components of the project, which I think you said somewhere around 18 or 20, you know, individual subcontractors are gonna be doing various things. That's all coming together now in a very short time frame.
You see all those coordination meetings, you know, now have to be redone again because of, you know, the sprinkler system, you know, or because of the ductwork that's involved, you know. So that's why I say the roughs haven't been completed, so they don't know exactly where they stand with everything. And that's why he was waiting for all those subcontractors to get in there, do their roughs, and say, okay, now we know, you know, all the roughs are in, the finishes are the finishes. That's not gonna change, you know, so.
And they've been discovering, now that the multiple contractors are in there, more and more issues. It was discovered 2 weeks ago that they had to move they got a cleaning room, which involves more than just moving studs. They had to move cut up a slab open for fixing a plumbing line because it wasn't taking into consideration the emergency power going to the second floor, which bumped the whole room out, which then it wouldn't fit the room size requirements. And I mean, there's a lot of things that are continually happening, and that's why I believe Crest is afraid to give a number until, like what Bob just said, until we actually get the roughs done, because once the roughs are done, it's finished work. But because the roughs keep changing, because they're discovering more and more issues.
But we're within a reasonable time frame of that getting done, aren't we? I mean,
Well,
Within a month and a half,
hopefully
2
with
months,
pre-
probably. The rough should be done.
With the pre-action system now, hopefully the roughs can get done, right?
It's on the second floor, but they have been discovering.
so 30 days, we should have a better feel for this.
Yes. Yep.
So if we were looking at July 1st being the worst case scenario for a rough estimate of how much money we're gonna spend, I mean, that's where we are. There's-
Yeah, I mean,
No getting around
I'm not
that.
predetermining the day, I just want a day. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you asked.
I didn't
and
say
he
the
said-
30th and pick your month. I mean, you know, it just,
You asked a while ago, and he said May 10th.
Right.
But then other issues have popped up.
oh, I understand.
That are gonna
I
delay
understand.
it.
And I don't want a bogus number either, so, you know, I understand.
And it was disturbing to hear that RDK, you know, their engineers weren't being called in and changing the plans. They were being changed by Humes and not RDK, which should have been done by RDK's engineers, not.
And this is one of the reasons why we're getting rid of the project manager, by the way.
He doesn't help at all.
Now they-
We had to, you know, I mean, just, this is not the first time we fired a project manager, so. We did that on the Freeman Kennedy School as well. We had issues there as well.
You mean the HLJ?
Yeah, sorry.
Freeman Kennedy was my project, that went pretty well.
You had issues with the project manager there, too.
The architect.
Oh, that's right, sorry. It was the
Well,
architect.
we did have project, we did.
You did, we
had-
did.
At the end, yeah.
Just getting the
Correct.
budget done,
You
yeah.
have selective memory here, Mr. Hathaway.
It's a nice building.
So does that leave an option open to move on and pick who the fire department wants to design their building?
Well, we pick who designs the building.
We could open it up again for.
Who they are suggesting,
They're-
who they would suggest, because I know it would be a different person.
Yeah, well, understandably.
You want to go first and I'll go second? You want me to go first and you go second?
I just want to, the issue's going to be is, because this is $1.5 million job plus, you have to file a DCAM review of the general contractor. You have to file an architect review with the state. You have to do this within a certain time period. My issue is if we file an accurate review of the architect, it's going to create an issue here because it's going to be going on here. If we don't file an accurate one, it's gonna hurt if there is any litigation going forward.
Right.
Do we have to,
If we don't file it properly, how,
but, well, the question may not even be important anyway, but is the deadline based upon when the project's done or when our contract is done with the architect? Because our contract with the architect goes through the fire station.
I can find that out, but I thought it was when the project was complete.
But I think the project is the total project, police and fire.
Yes.
That's how I understood it.
Yeah,
Just,
That'd make a huge difference.
that would,
Yeah. See,
I
I mean,
hadn't thought of that before,
But
I just,
I think that Hume's mentality is
frustrating.
minimal drawings with the expectation that the contractor is gonna have their engineers and their shop drawings do all that engineering so that it reduces his costs. And that mentality, if that goes forward, we're gonna run into the same problems all over again with the fire department.
right, and, I mean, I think we have to go through with the contract with the architect. I just think that isn't, my rationale is simply that the fire project is on a standalone basis, is a very small project compared to what most of these projects are. I mean, this is not a $40 million project. So if we, two things. One, it would cause extensive delays, which I'm not in favor of. And second, I think it's going to cost us a whole lot more money. Because you're going to go out and bid or secure services for a smaller project. It's like trying to get a plumber when all the plumbers are busy. You know, you'll find one that'll do it, but he's going to charge you 3 times as much to do it because he can. And I think that's what you're going to find. So I think we have to stay in the contract, my personal opinion. This man is not incompetent. I mean, you know, he's done a ton of these fire stations, and he's got a great reputation. Something happened here. And we just got to figure out, or make sure that it does not happen again when we get down to this building.
Yeah, I know
We
Cole
didn't
have-
hire an incompetent architect.
I know Cole didn't have a good experience with him when he was down in Connecticut.
That's my understanding also, that's why I asked the question. Can we split it? And I would like to find that answer out.
Well,
I mean, you can, but I agree with Jim, it's gonna cost a lot of money.
I just don't see how it wouldn't. I just
Well,
don't.
you're gonna pay one way or another, and that's what I'm
Well,
afraid of.
maybe, maybe not. I mean, one way, for certain, you will. I mean, if you go out and bid this truck, you're gonna pay more money. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not in the business of bidding these, but the project isn't big enough in terms of dollars to incent someone to give us a competitive bid. It's gonna be, and it's the prime time. You know, this is when all this
But
stuff
the
is going
architect-
on.
the
Modeling
architect's
is tough, though.
fee is kind of based on the 10% of the building costs.
Correct.
So whether we go with architect A or architect B, the
But
cost should not.
what I'm
be
saying is
that
those costs are gonna be higher.
much. The construction cost? or
Yeah. You're,
I don't know,
maybe I'm wrong. I just,
understand
you
your
know,
logic.
maybe I'm wrong,
I
but,
think we need to answer the first part first. Can we get out of it? And if we can't get out of it, then we have to go with your thought. But I'd like to know that answer, and Dave's the
So
only
for now,
one.
do we wanna put a hold on, that's the discussion right now, as to what's going on with the plans.
but from my perspective, that whole is just to get our arms around the cost. It's not to say we don't want him. I mean, that's only gonna make the problem worse. I mean, it's just, hey, you know, we don't know what we're designing here until we have a better feel for what the costs are.
do you want to do like a motion to postpone the design until,
Let's just put it on hold. I
Until
mean,
further
just-
notice.
further notice until we have a firm,
Yeah, pending an understanding of where we are with the police station. I mean, we don't have that answer. We have guesstimates,
Yeah,
probably
and
6 guesstimates.
we're not gonna know exactly what the cost of the police station is until all the site work's done, and, or at least
No, but we can get in
Close
the
to
ball,
where
we can get in the
we're
ballpark.
Yeah.
getting completed. All the, again, all the roughs are done,
Yeah.
so now we're just looking at curbing and pavement
Right.
and, you know,
And
landscaping.
we know we have some play in the site work number that we have down at the fire station, you know, so, I mean, you know, this isn't all doom and gloom.
Oh, no.
By any means, it's just that, to me, it's just fiscally responsible to put a hold on his work here, because he's charging us for this stuff, and then have to change it. He may not have to change it, you know,
He
we
gets
may be
most of his
fine.
money up front.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
Want to make a motion?
I move to instruct the architect to put on hold any further design work on the fire station until this board so authorizes it.
I'll
Second.
second that. I'll check.
Go ahead, Chuck, that's all yours.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Hopefully, it'll be a short hold.
Yes, hopefully.
Oh,
And I will find out the status of how that works. For this
On the report.
report, yes, sir. I'll report that back to you guys.
Well, I'm thinking logically, which probably means I'm wrong. I mean,
Well-
logically, we hired him for an entire project, so you would
Right.
think that it would be at the conclusion of the entire project, but maybe not.
Well, it bothers me that, as Matt's read through the contract, and he's supposed to be out there weekly, and he refuses to come out,
Well, why can't we force that then? I mean,
At a board meeting, I
We
told him
talked
he
about
had
that
to.
a couple months
And
ago, yeah.
he said he doesn't care what the contract states, he's not going to do it. And he-
Well, and part of his argument back was too that he was doing a lot of things that weren't in the contract, and, so.
well, he's done a lot of, and part of the argument back is he's done a lot of things wrong, too. So, I mean,
Yeah, I know, I'm not defending him.
The
I'm
only,
just
the
telling you what he
benefit
said.
of having a different contract would be
sorry.
tighten it up with a lot more restrictions on the contract, which will drive the price up, but it will also create a better building, where you would put on there that they are in charge of the design of the building, not putting it off, and there's certain deadlines in there, and spell out every single aspect of what they own, because that's where Brian's trying to find loops as well. It doesn't state in the contract. Well, it states in a complete envelope, basically, but you.
But doesn't the contract say he's supposed to be there weekly?
It does, and I've.
that's just one aspect of it.
But there's a lot, we're supposed to be receiving weekly reports from him, or bi-weekly reports. We're supposed to be, there's a lot of things that we're not receiving, which I've gone after, and he disregards my
Then why
comment.
isn't he in breach of contract?
Well, and that's why I think I want to find out from Dave,
I think at the end of this project, all those issues are gonna come to
He
light.
isn't in breach of contract, but how do you don't want to fire him at this point, because
Right.
We can't.
that's not going to be
Can't.
beneficial to the town, so you have to kind of ride it out and work, and just, if we do go forward with him on the fire station, is all engineering drawings have to be in this in this bid by you. You're responsible for it. If you draw something incorrectly, it's under, your responsibility to draw it again, free of charge, but all the engineering drawings, because when he pushes it off to like the stair contractor to draw the engineering drawings,
Yeah.
and it goes on for 2 months, when
Well,
there's
that
a
was a
hole in the
disgrace.
floor, it's just unreasonable.
they were
Well,
going
this is
back
he
and
already
forth
signed
and
the contract, and the
finger-pointing
terms
every
of his
meeting.
contract.
It's ridiculous.
That's where we're gonna have an issue with this contract, or this architect, is he already has a contract. We cannot be able to enforce that without some sort of price increase, I'm sure, because he's not gonna agree to an alternate on a contract that's gonna create more work for him, so less profit.
Well, that's a matter of negotiation, Matt.
Yes, sir.
It is.
Yeah, either you let him go and you say, you're going after all these things.
There are a
because
number
breach
of, I mean, I can think
Sure.
of several ways we can approach
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
And I would definitely recommend, before we release the plans for the next for the fire station, is we pay, it's probably gonna be about $10,000 to have a professional group go through and do a red line review on all these things and pick up where the contractors that know all the procurement laws and how they can skip roofs and stuff, because it's not written right. Pay to have a firm go through it and make sure that what we're sending out, it's not gonna be bulletproof, but it's gonna be much more bulletproof than sending out something which, per the contract, the architect, he's supposed to put out a professional document. We've seen that there's some issues. I think it's a very good idea to have a red line review from a competent company to do this, to protect us in the future, and try to pick up flaws in the documents, because it will save us money.
Well, you're probably right in that conclusion, but that is just such a frustrating route to have to go when you hire a professional that's supposed to do it right, and then you gotta hire another professional to check the professional
Yeah.
to make sure he did it right. It's just,
I can tell you, going back on this building, we had a second set of eyes, meeting another architectural
This building?
firm, review the plans here, and I wasn't real impressed with the work that they did on it, because they still found problems. They still had problems.
But this would be a firm, like, not necessarily just somebody that would go through these bid documents and then make sure that they're all written to the specifications they need to be, so there's not so many outs. Not so much going over the design, but making sure what's written in that bid document is
That part, yeah.
That's
He
what I'm
says,
looking to
it's
do.
in the drawings, or it's in the notes,
Make
or
sure-
it's,
have
you know.
it compare, because
The
as-
two have to marry each other, and they don't.
as we've seen, if it's not written properly and it's open to interpretation, it's not gonna benefit the town, so
And it's part of what the OPM should be doing, so, you know, we're gonna save some money by not having by not having another OPM, so we can justify that $10,000 cost by some of our savings in the OPM. I
and
agree with you, it's frustrating, but,
I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, I'm just saying it's frustrating.
and what I'll do, if there is any T&M work, since I have 2 town employees down there working, if there's any T&M work to be done, I will have them sign their slips and to make sure that they're there, because I will have employees at the site, because that is the one benefit of having the project clerk there, is if there is anything changes, that we're getting a record of the time, but I'll just have the guys working there make sure that it's being, whatever we are getting charged for, we're getting those hours.
Well, with you and Mr. Bullock now, and, I mean, the reports that the project manager has been sending are terrible. I mean, they basically don't tell you anything. Your reports that you have sent on occasion are very detailed.
well, I forward you Mike's,
Huh?
I don't forward them every week, but I try and forward you Mike's reports.
Yeah, well, Mike's are
Those are
better
very
too.
good, yeah.
Mike's are better as
Yeah.
well. But the OPM reports are a waste of time.
Just for record, nobody has questioned any of the reports or what's stated in any of those reports to this date. Neither the architect nor the OPM who are on the list, so
I know.
they're seeing what he's writing and they're not saying anything different for the most part.
That was very noticeable.
Because he's not calling out anything,
No,
you know, they're just,
he's not doing anything.
I mean, you could have, you know, your secretary there just saying, yep, Joe showed up to do the electrical.
Well, that's what you
work."
have.
That's all you got.
That's basically what you have.
You
That's
can't
why
even
he
walk
doesn't
around
need
the
the
site
trailer.
with him because he's, you know, 100 steps behind you because he can't keep up. And nothing against the guy, but he's the wrong guy for the job, honestly, you know? So,
No, it's not personal.
no.
They did send us a resume at the end of last week for somebody else, but it's too little, too late.
It's too late.
Yeah. We done?
think so.
I believe so.
Did you want to ask these guys, I mean,
What's that?
do you want to ask these guys? I mean,
Do you have any
I was
comments?
going to ask these guys, I know you're probably disappointed by the delay, but,
Well, that makes everybody in the room.
yeah. So I don't know if you had any, want to make a statement or anything, but.
I wouldn't say we're disappointed by the delay. I think we all are in the group of, wanting to make sure we get the best product for the money that we can. I mean, like, why rush through something and find out we didn't get as good of a product as we could?
Yeah.
No.
Good.
We're in agreement then.
We're in
My
agreement.
personal opinion, stay as long as you need, get it done the best way we can.
We've all talked about that as the station. We'd rather, if you put it on hold, and that would be the only way to do it right.
Thank you for that, because that's exactly the intent of this.
That's our feeling. We would
That is the
take our
exact
time
intent of this. We don't want to screw this up a second time.
No.
And don't, just like take our time and do it right.
Yep, we're on the same page. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
That's exactly the message we hoped you'd hear. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.